And yay! All right, back to Wayland. Let's try again.
Yeah, cool, cool. So I guess we'll start. So who are we? We are all C13s. I believe EA has hired like 7 of us now, 7 C13s, or 6 of us. So I'm pretty proud of us for getting for getting in, because that was quite a surprise. Um, so right now I'm working as a technical artist at EA, um, which means I'm focusing on building tools for 3D artists and making sure that their workflows are as smooth as possible, which means I'm like also automating a lot of things. Robots are taking over, and I'm it's giving me a job, so that's good. Yeah, and I joined the MDM program right after my undergrad in Saskatchewan, where I had a computer science degree, but it focused on games and design. So it was kind of a nice fit for me to go to the MDM program. Yeah, and I'll pass it on to Boz.
Hey guys. All right, so I'm Boz. I don't know if I think I got the chance to meet most or some of you guys. If you guys don't know me, I'm Boz, and I basically work as a character artist at EA. And yeah, most of my job is just so I work in the wardrobe division in FIFA, and basically we kind of design all the different outfits or all the different types of clothing that you see in the game. And where my background, I basically did my undergrad in New York, and I went to work for an AR company in Boston for about a year. And then I went and joined the MDM program, and it took us a while, I think, for all of us, but then we finally, yeah. We finally found a job at EA.
Cool. So I guess we'll get on to the next one. So how did we get here? We were all in the same cohort. We attended, I was actually like just going through what I did just to try to get a job, and then there was a lot of things that Boz, myself, and Kara did, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are doing this now, probably less so with COVID, but probably in different ways. We attended so many different job conferences. This is after the semester you guys are in now. So I think 3 conferences, like two really big ones and one kind of just meet up. But there was a lot of those, and a lot of coffees with alumni and industry people, just to look for any sort of advice. So this is some things that we were doing. We sent out so many job applications. I actually wrote down all the ones I applied to, and it was like 30 different applications and multiple applications to the same company. And I guess there was a lot of failing, which I'll talk about later. But we knew we wanted to work in games because it was the lifestyle that we wanted. Sure, there's money in it, somewhat, but we knew that there were going to be tons of hours focusing on certain things. We just wanted that lifestyle, and we were comfortable getting there. So we'll talk more about that later, because I feel like that's going to be a very important thing if you want to work in a field that like the entertainment industry. Yeah, okay, so it's okay to fail. Boz, feel free to jump in on this, but I think I was ghosted by a lot of employers and recruiters. I believe 5 of them got back to me, and I got 2 recruiters come out of nowhere. I didn't even apply for those jobs, and I got, at the end I had 2 offers, so it was quite a journey. It was, yeah. So Boz, you have a pretty interesting story here.
Kind of similar, yeah. Like in the, like I got a few offers like in the very beginning of school, like really, really early on. It was like in the second term, And then, so I was like kind of thinking, oh, okay, you know, I have those like line of safety, and one of them was EA. And later on in the internship period, I didn't realize like what it meant. Basically, those periods are kind of just like they're asking you if you're willing to work. And yeah, and then after that, just like rejection after rejection, and those come more often than acceptance letters. But then you just have to have a rapport, or you have to have like a reputation, and then once that happens, you know, those job offers become more visible. But obviously, in the beginning, it's like, you know, I don't know you, so yeah.
Yeah, it's different. So for me, there were two instances where I just straight up cried after the rejections got really bad. And you know, they get better because you get used to it. And I wanted to bring this up because it's a really harsh reality for some of us. It was definitely for me because I didn't know what it would be like to be in this position. So first, I applied to Skybox Labs for Minecraft back in July. So I guess around this time, and then I got through the first stage of interviews for this one position at that company, and then didn't get it, which was fine. You know, I was happy to just even have the interview. But then they contacted me back and was like, "Hey, there's another position here that you could interview for." So I interviewed for that one. So there's 3 stages in this one. I got through the second stage. They told me I was doing really good. And I thought, okay, well, I guess now I just have to wait till the third interview, which is just meeting the team. So I waited 2 weeks for that, and the email I got back was just, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We ended up recruiting someone else," and that was quite devastating. That was quite early on. And then before I got hired at EA, I was so close to being hired at Eastside Games. So I got to the last stage of interviews, and the HR person was so friendly. He shook my hand. He's like, "Don't worry about it. Like, I feel like you're gonna get this, like, hands down." I had so much confidence. Boz was there when I got the rejection, and Jeanette, our supervisor, was there at the time, and I was just, you know, getting high fives, like, "Yes, Wayland, you got this. You're finally gonna get a job." And you got that email. I was like, "Nope, I'm sorry. You failed the tech test," which surprised me because I thought I did really well. And yeah, and that was it was a tough time. That was around October of 2019 or somewhere around that. Yeah.
You got hired in November, right?
Yeah.
Like
so I got
early,
hired at EA in November. Which, yeah. Before I move on to the next slide of how what are the strong points of me getting at EA? Paz, you have anything else to talk about? It's okay to fail. And it's okay to cry and support each other.
Yeah, like one of the main things is actually that it's never, it's kind of like what Wayland mentioned. Those things are never personal. So it's never actually about your skills or, well, it's not, obviously it is about your skills, but it's not like this is what this means that you can't ever get in ever. It's just an indication that they were weighing their options, and at the right time, somebody probably already like was gonna get hired. So they just wanted you as an extra option. So sometimes you'll get that, "Oh, we're thinking it's 100% gonna work," and then it becomes weird, and then you don't get hired. So those things aren't personal to your own growth. It's actually just how the industry here works. Like they take a bunch of people, and then they test them out for like their best skills. So it's okay to fail in those kinds of things, and it's also good to grow from them, you know? Like I can explain what happened to me after, I guess, because it's one of the points for EA.
Is this the point right here? Or was
one?
Oh shoot, I forgot.
Like about the test.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's this part, I guess. So let's just quickly talk about this, because this is the reason I thought, well, not the reason, but one of the reasons I stuck out to the employer. So during the showcase, I was talking to 2 EA people, and I had no idea what tech art was. And so this guy named Dan came up to me and started asking me all like these questions about C# and do you know what tech art is? And it was kind of like an interview during the showcase. It was quite interesting. I didn't think too much of it. This was back in July at the time. And when I got this email from EA Recruiter for the job I am in now, I think I failed. No, I got rejected 3 times by EA at this point. So I kept trying, but so for this job I actually didn't send an application for, was because the person during my showcase really liked who I was, because I guess I'm friendly, um, and and he saw the value that the MDM has, provided me for my teammates, and he thought it might be a good fit for this one job. So I just wanted to put this in, the value of being a good person to work with. If you're a good person to work with, it really does show. Like, sure, I have like a resume of things on my portfolio, which is definitely the reason I got hired, but I think a strong reason was because I was a good person to work with, according to their eyes, and that relates to the tests that they do at EA. So for me, I had 3 interviews in total. One really quick HR interview asking me about salaries and stuff, so that's boring. But they also gave me a personality interview, and this is with the person I talked to during the showcase, as well as my lead, who I'll be working under. And they ask you so many questions about how do you solve problems, like how do you work with others, really just to get an idea of, can this person I'm interviewing be a good asset to our team, or will they be very toxic and stop production, which is a very big deal. If someone is not a good person to work with, they would not want to work with you. And then obviously there's a technical test afterwards, which was okay. You can, for all the programmers out there, feel free to send me questions. I can about the technical test. It's pretty decent. Yeah. So for Boz, tests were something for you.
Yeah. So there are EA for character artists or environment artists, or even like sculptors, modelers, all the different variations. They give you a test because, well, the whole process kind of works like this, and this is pretty unanimous among, what I've seen, at least, and not just EA, but I guess with a bunch of other industries, especially like ones that are AAA, is that most of the time it's usually that you're recruited by a recruiter. Now, that's not always the case. You have people that talk to recruiters firsthand, and then they're able to develop a connection. And that's where the showcase is important, because I had a good line of communication between me and the person who recruited me. So I was able to see them in the showcase, and we were able to have a good like one-on-one conversation. So that definitely helped. And then I did a test in August for a head test, and it was a bit intense. It was like a week to do a head. And I didn't feel like I did too well on that one, so I got a rejection for that. They didn't state why. It was just like, not really that good enough. And that kind of put me on edge a bit. So what I did is I basically started practicing all the time, and I started doing heads, and I did a head of Patrick one time. And that for me was like a good starting point to understand, like, okay, I learned from my mistakes and all the different variations of how could I make this better by studying other artists online. And then there was another showcase, another job fair in, I don't remember when.
Was that the spot?
Yeah. It was the one where after MPC, I forgot that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I saw the recruiter there again, and I was able to say, oh, like if they're able to do the test again, and they were like, oh, we can't do that test, but we can give you another test. And so when they did another test, this time it was a shoe, and I did a lot better at that one because I got an interview after that one. And I could talk a little bit about the test. So the tests, basically, you have a specific time period to do something, and it's based on the requirements that they give you. And most of the time, they won't tell you how to do it because it's basically assessing whether or not you can do it because there's a big criteria of what they want to see,
Mhm.
and it's not just, oh, can you do their job? They just want to see, do you qualify like a certain standard as an artist, as a 3D
Mhm.
artist? So so you don't have to be scared about them, but you do have to approach them very strategically. Like when you get the test, maybe take the half a day to just figure out how you're going to do it. And that's something that was different from my first test to the second one. The first one, I just kept on working, but I kept doing revisions. The second one is I knew what I was going to do, and I just bolted through it and did the best I could, and it ended up working. And yeah, and then finally they ask you for an interview. And in the interview, you really have to show them that, like Wayland said, you're a person that you're willing to work with. And I tried my best to be as, try to engage them in the conversation as much as possible. And we kind of geeked out about what kind of games we played and, why do you want to work here? And it just felt very natural. So that's what you need to be. You can't just say like, oh, I want money. So,
Yeah.
please, yeah, I need a job. It's like, no, it's
Mhm.
why you want to work here, like why EA. And they're usually pretty understanding about, who you are.
Mhm.
So
I think I ended up just I like how you brought up like it's like a natural conversation during from my personality interview it started off as here's some questions that we need to ask you because HR, but then it started to be a conversation. And I think I ended up just interviewing them because I asked them questions like, hey, what made you want to be in this position? And like, is this the type of lifestyle, like what kind of type of like lifestyle did you want in my position? And stuff like that, because those are very important to know. I think I still juggle with that now is while I'm working, is this the type of lifestyle I want? And, I quite like it, but I still need to think about that as I progress through my career. So I think they joke about, like my leads joke about how many questions I ask them. And I have to thank the MDM program for that because they taught me how to ask a million questions, but not just a million questions, but the right questions and yeah, and it's the reason why I recently just got put on a new project. I'm hesitating because it's like really secret, but I got put on this new project. It's not really that cool to be honest, but it's secret, and that's cool to say, because I like asking questions, and my duties are to go to different artists and ask some specific things, and to try to figure out this new plan that we're working on. Kara had some interesting things about her interviews because I believe she had like 3 hours worth of interviews in total, which was quite a bit. So let me just see what's next on here. Yeah. So Google Slides was giving me some issues. I had like 2 other slides here. There was something that. Oh, sorry. Let's go check my notes.
yeah, I feel like we talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I guess we can start with Q&A. Is there anything else you want to say about EA and your process to get there?
Well, I could say there was, I think, one thing I wanted to say in terms of like 3D artists or character artists. It also applies, I guess, for TAs, but Wayland, you can jump on.
Sure.
Tell me if like that's actually, I don't think that applies just as much.
Okay.
So for 3D artists, what's really important, and that's something I see very often in people that work in the industry, is that you need to have an online presence, and that's something that's substantially important. And what I mean by that is that if you guys don't have an ArtStation account at this point, please open one and just put your portfolio there. Not your own portfolio, but like, pieces of your portfolio, because recruiters look at that for artists. And I've had multiple times where recruiters like found me on ArtStation and we're like, oh, okay, we want you to like consider this. And it's important that you keep updating it and that you follow other artists that you really like, ascribe to do what they want to do, ascribe to do like what their techniques show you. Everyone that I talk to basically knows a bunch of other artists, and we, our styles are basically saying that we're using this style from this artist to this. So it's crazy that we actually just know them without even like knowing them personally. And there's a lot of artists in Vancouver that if you just go on ArtStation and just, you know, follow these people, you know, you get a good understanding of what you need to do, because they're just like the good blueprint for, you know, how to get a job. And then try to reach out to them if you want to. Most of them are usually friendly. It's just, yeah, you can't be like, oh, like kind of googly eyes, like looking for the future kind of thing. It'd be like very professional and tell them that I'm an artist and I'm a describing artist and I do this and that. So that's very important. And I feel like for EA, that's actually something that is somewhat important to them, is kind of online presence.
Yeah, online presence. So for programmer, GitHub, they looked at my GitHub quite a bit. I was fortunate that I worked on this side project for just doing it. I'll send it to all the programmers or whoever's interested. It's from this booklet called Raycasting Over the Weekend, and it's just you do C++ programming for raycasting stuff, and it's really neat because it really if a programmer's looking at it, they see all the code, which looks really good because they teach you how to do that. But also a recruiter will look at it and it's like, that looks really good because there's some visuals from your code. It will create these scenes for you and render these objects. So that's really something that they really liked, and they talked about that during my interview. So yeah, definitely having that online presence for your specific area. For example, like Boss said, ArtStation for 3D artists. For programmers, it was GitHub. That was important. Kara, I believe she had I'm not sure what Kara had. I think she just had a PDF or something, or website. Yeah, and as a designer, she had that. Apparently, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of Kara, but I believe her portfolio was so clear that they didn't have to do a test for her. So that was kind of awesome. I also wrote down some concrete things that you should just know when you apply at EA. If you're entry level and you're an artist or you're looking at tech art jobs, look for positions that have the word assistant or associate to it. If you have less than 2 years of experience, assistant and associate level. And if it says technical artist or programmer or just like straight up just the job, that means you have 4+ years. And recruiters will look at how many years you've worked. And it sucks, but that's what they look at. So associate and assistant level jobs for technical artists. I believe 3D artists are the same. We have the same job family. Yeah. So same for 3D artists. Yeah. And UX designers could be.
I think so.
Yeah, because
I think everyone's
right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just realized there's a chat here. All right. So.
Definitely. Guys, send your ArtStation accounts to everyone. Like, do a whole pool of like all of them and just follow each other. And basically, if you want, do collaborations. Those are actually a lot. Like, those are really awesome. If you have like, we do that occasionally where it's like, oh, you know, for fun, we kind of just make something and we kind of collaborate on, oh, you know, we did this piece together. And even something really simple, like literally anything. Yeah. So
because you guys are nailing so many things on the head, I'm going to lose track of all my notes. It's perfect. So again, like when you're talking about having an online presence and GitHub for programmers and ArtStation for artists, I mean, this speaks to the idea of portfolio. And what I want everyone on this call to understand is that your portfolio represents can be a lot of different things, and recruiters can find you in different ways. Wayland, when you got reached out to out of the blue, sometimes that happens because of a LinkedIn presence or maybe in your GitHub. ArtStation, and again, your work, the portfolio examples, it's not always just your professional offerings, like the work you've done with previous employers. It can be work that was within the MDM program. I'd like to bring that up, but also side projects. So you were mentioning the GitHub project, or I know like the Patrick Head that Boz had worked on. These were all extra, honing the craft, adding to the portfolio, giving a sense of the quality of work that you can deliver to prospective employers, right? So everyone in the MDM program has a different background. We do have artists, we do have designers, we do have producer, project managers, artists. It's a real mixed bag. So everyone's portfolio will look different. And yeah, when Kira gets on, we'll get her to walk through a bit about what she was experiencing too. But at the end of the day, your portfolio is just to get you sort of the interview. I mean, it's what you, both of you touched on this. It is the kind of person you are. Are you somebody that you could work with, that, has your back, is going to be productive and contribute to the success of a team, right? So those are good things for you to all know. You can have the best portfolio, but if you don't communicate the value that you can bring within a team, that you're a good team player. And that's why it's nice to have a balance of an I and a we. So, and what I mean by that is that when you're going to be interviewing and applying to these places, you do need to speak about what you brought to a project, but it's still okay to say what you achieved as a team, right? So, and we were talking about this a bit earlier about that. There's a fine line between being too humble and not trying to brag about yourself and having too much ego. And so how did you guys explain what you did on your projects in a way how did you combat that? Wayland, we were chatting about.
For me, I actually wrote it on my resume because this was a point that Jeanette, our supervisor, told me to do, and that was fantastic. So I just, in my resume and in the interviews, I briefly talked about what I was able to accomplish as a programmer. So, for example, I made things like, I wish I had my resume on me. I should have brought that out. For example, I made a game. I believe some people here are working on the Hive with the Hive team. So I worked on that team as well, and there was so many different parts going in. So I had to make sure I was talking about what I achieved, which was like the camera and how it worked. But I made some cool name. I don't know if I can explain this very well, but I made some cool names for the things I made. Like, this is a levitation system. This is a leveling organization system. Oh, I see Ellie's on the Hive team. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Great team. I hope the code was okay to work with. Sorry, I'll have to think about that. Boss, do you have an answer right now for that?
Basically, what's that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm trying to think. Sorry, I completely zoned out for a bit. What was the question? Sorry, I lost.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Dennis, can you help?
We're talking about lifestyle and.
That lifestyle is going to be one of those questions, but what we were just chatting about was how do you present what you brought to a team, like recognizing work as an individual.
The we and I thing. Sorry.
Yeah. But think about, like, in the MDM, everyone works on a project with 5-6 other people, and people will see that work, but you still need to specifically speak to what you, and again, you'll face this when you're working at a game studio, AAA, hundreds of people, you still need to speak to what you brought. So how did you do that? How did you convey what you bring to a team, both in your online presence, but also in your interview process?
Right. Yeah. Actually, the interview was a good example of when I had to present all the work that I did at the MDM, and they were specifically interested when I did the UVC project. And they also looked at my resume. They looked at my previous history, as well as a lot of the stuff from the MDM, because they were curious. A lot of them come from the. It's kind of interesting because they thought I was also Emily Carr, because I just basically put all the other universities. So they're interested. Oh, like, okay, we're all the same alumni. They kind of thought it was a bit crazy that I guess I'm alumni with a bunch of other people. Yeah. So. Yeah. And they were talking.
Yeah. Oh no, I just saw David Fracke's comment in the chat there. For portfolios and demo reels, just include your best work. Showing early work may show progress, but employers want to know where you are at now. That's a very important thing to point out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if your resume, I'm jumping points here. Show where you are at now. I said I have 1 year of professional experience, and I make sure to tell them that so they don't expect, so they know what to expect. And it's okay if you don't know something to a level that you think that they need, if that makes sense. I thought I had to be the best C# programmer in the world. I didn't. I went in and they expected me to know like nothing. So, and they guided me through everything there. Because it was they knew where I was, and they wanted to make sure I grew properly within the company. Demo reels just include password.
For portfolios and demo reels, yeah, definitely. That's something we get from our leads all the time. Like only show the work, because yeah, it's kind of like this like universal rule is that only show the pieces that you think are like show who you are and show your standards. Because if you show one piece that's like, oh, I did this, out of my free time, it's gonna be a bit of an issue for them, because they're gonna think, oh, okay, well, why do you think this is good? Because artistic style is a big factor, and your technical ability to do it is also like, that's a given. You need to have that, and your artistic style is the thing that is going to make them is going to convince them that you're the best person for this job.
Put your best work out there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I see David Freck is. Would you recommend applying for an EA internship? I
did, but it didn't work.
Apply for an EA internship?
Yeah, I was trying to do like a co-op thing, but it's like their internship is basically a co-op, which I remember I talked to Dennis like really early on about it, and we went on this whole like loophole. Maybe it works for some people. For me, what I found is that in August is probably your best. Wait, do they hire?
Yeah, in
October.
I had an intern working for me. So
yeah, I think it was October that they do something, and then January, and then March. It depends on the dates. Like it's never like universal.
Yeah. So fall internships start in September. So I guess the hiring starts in August for that one. I believe they're accepting applications now. They're almost like, I'm not sure because I was advised to not, I think Jeanette told me this. Sorry, Dennis, if this is conflicting information. But I was told not to apply for internship, like the co-op positions, because of the way they're structured, right? Because schools have to hire you to that company, and then they pay half and EA pays half, I believe, or something like that. Or the government pays half.
It's something weird with co-op, like especially with our study permits too. Like
yes, here's the thing. So the co-op is a formalized program that's run through different universities. It has a class attached to it. It's not an internship. You guys are on a professional degree master's program where you're employable right out of the gate. So a lot of MDM grads go straight into direct employment. Some companies do offer, formally they offer internships, but you're not really bound by that. You can take contracts, you can do like piecemeal. I know like Kira, she did stuff for multiple employers before leading into EA, right? So EA, I mean, it's in some cases, and this is again where the information somewhat conflicts. It's there's no issue if you have legal working status as a permanent resident or a citizen. Like that's not going to be an issue for certain positions. Some employers, especially the larger ones, do take a second look at people that are applying for an internship or a co-op that don't necessarily meet all of what they perceive as the qualifications legally, right? But it's still, you do get on their radar. This is the only thing. And so I'm of two minds on this, because I do think in some cases people have found their way in, and you all come in, and everyone's from a different country, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not an immigration lawyer, so no one's going to address that on this call. But your status is important to the employers. They have to work within those rules. You do get you will eventually qualify for a post-grad work visa once you've fulfilled your MDM requirements, and a lot of grads have connected then. But I think what I want everyone on this call to realize too is that in your stories, you all started your internship at different points near the end, we'll say, of the internship term, but you all fulfilled your requirement. So the big thing here is that as long as you're actively engaged, checking in with your supervisor, doing what you need to do, working on your craft. So if you get some feedback, and again, the rejection, it's a huge part of it. It's a part of the just the real world in life. And it's not a direct reflection on anybody. It's the timing, it's the fit. And it is, in some cases, they have a candidate in mind, but they're looking at others because just in case that candidate doesn't accept the offer or they move on someplace else, so it's a bit of a, it's a longer game, right? So I mean, you have to play and kind of it's heartbreaking at moments for sure. It's because you get your hopes really high, and I'm glad you shared that part of it. It's kind of everyone's used to the story of, oh yeah, I applied for this place, got this job, dream job, I'm loving what I'm doing, I work with great people, I work on amazing stuff. But crying because something emotionally hit you in the gut, like that's legit. That happens. That's human. And that's what I love about you guys sharing your stories.
Yeah.
So
I just wish someone told me how, I don't know, emotionally draining it can be beforehand so I could prepare. But, honestly, it was a great learning experience. And I just wanted to let you guys know about that. I also want to touch on the question of, could you give more details on the lifestyle thing I mentioned earlier? So this part, I said, we knew we wanted to work in games because, sorry, I have so many windows here. It was a lifestyle we wanted. And the reason I put that there, two reasons was one, Baz and I know a lot of people that want to just get a job and, pay for my bills and stuff. But it was very clear, I think, for me, at least during these interviews, that they do not want anyone with that kind of mentality of, oh, you just here so you can pay your bills. Cool. Well, if you know this is the type of lifestyle you want for working in games and entertainment, you bring more to the table because you have a passion for it. There's been a number of times where I thought, where I've told my leads, like, oh, we could do it this way because, they, in this other company, I've heard that they also do it this way, and we explored it. And you might not explore that if you aren't really passionate about what you want to work on. Also, it was kind of a driver for all the failing that we've done. Just knowing that Baz and I want to work in games, it kind of drove us to keep applying, and that's why I applied at EA for four times, and Skybox twice, and a bunch of other companies. It's like I wanted to be there, so I'm gonna not stop until I get it. What are the workload and hours like at EA? Okay, but before I jump to that question, Baz, do you have any comments on that?
Oh, the lifestyle? Yeah, like this actually, Wayland put it really, really well. That, yeah, they don't want to, so I know it's crazy because you just want to get a job, and it's like for the internship period, and that's all you're focusing on. So like your kind of mentality represents your resume, is kind of like drained in like the resume or your portfolio, or like even in your interviews. But the trick is to really just find the places that you want to work for. Like for me, EA was just like the first company that actually just looked at me and was like, oh, wow, you actually seem like an interesting person. So that's why, like, after looking more about it and just really, like, I've been a big fan of EA games my whole life. It's just like recently that I haven't really engaged as much, but then I knew what I wanted to talk to, and I knew what I wanted to talk to them about. And it's like, if I ever had the interview process, I know exactly how to get through with that in a breeze. All the other companies were difficult is because, well, it's this company that I've never heard about, but I'm interested in their games and I like how they do the process. So you have to research, and you have to, like, no one's going to tell you to do this. You have to research these companies. You have to really understand them, find the artists that work on them, or even find like the directors. And you have to immerse yourself and engage with these companies and try to treat them as if like they're all kind of interesting projects, not that this is a permanent place for you to live in. It's like, these are interesting projects, and you can kind of like what Jeanette kind of gave me advice, is like jump around and then see which is the best like place to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what is the work? Oh, I guess this is related to lifestyle. What is the workload for you, Baz? So I'll start by saying we have a mandatory 10 to 4. So as long as you're working between those times, you're fine. If you're not working between those times, that's fine. Lately, I've been pretty chill. I just moved to a different project. I wake up at 9, start work at 10. I end at 4:30. Life's great. Before that, while I was at the studio, there were times where I got to work at 8:30. I can't leave till 6, or 7. Very rarely I leave at 7. But sometimes I bring work home and it's like, oh, I gotta check on these things because artists need support late at night. So it really depends. But for me right now, pretty chill. Definitely goes in waves. So I guess a more concrete answer would be like, there are pre-production times. It's really chill during those times. I just finished up alpha for a game for NHL a month, 2 months ago. That was really stressful. I like it wasn't long hours, but it was just really, it was longer hours and it was pretty stressful. Boz is an artist, and I work with artists, so I understand what kind of hours they do. So maybe Boz, you want to talk about hours as an artist?
I mean, it depends on who you are, really, as an artist. I took the time to work a little bit extra on my work, and what I found is that now I'm able, like, a lot of problems we have to like tell the leads because we can't solve these problems, like we just can't. And what I've started noticing is that I can actually figure out those problems by myself if I just try to understand like the infrastructure and stuff. So I spent a lot of the first time just kind of doing a little bit extra work, and it paid off because it's like a little bit faster and stuff. The thing is, COVID happened to happen, so like it's not as, so we all, like all of the people I work with were kind of like, it sucks that we can't just talk to each other and be like, hey, did you see this thing that happened? And they're like we have to message each other, and then we have to like take the time to wait for it to load, send a screenshot, explain our whole scenario, so it takes a lot more time, and the lead artists are kind of emphasizing that we should be up and around, but I think on a normal day, everyone's just like having a great time.
Yeah.
And actually something important to that is that we have these like fun events that we do. So that is a great motivator for us, so we sometimes spend a lot of time on work, and then at night we just kind of do these fun things. And
it's part of the lifestyle. Like,
yeah, it's like work hard, play hard, kind of.
Oh, and I guess they do pay overtime if you need to go overtime. They let your
on like a specific period, not.
Yeah, they definitely care about your health. So if they, like recently, I was really stressed out. My director was like, "Okay, talk to this person. They'll set you up with a counselor and stuff." So I was like, "Whoa, wow, super quick." So they don't want you to work. Like how do I say this with that? So like back in 2013, things were really different. 2013 and before, I heard, were really different. It was a really toxic environment. People were working long hours. Maybe not 2013, maybe it was like 2008 before. And it got to the point where like managers had like those bullhorns or whatever, and they were yelling at their employees. Like, that's how bad it was. It's the complete opposite right now. They treat you like royalty as an employee. I have 3 weeks vacation. I can take it whenever. If you're sick right now, you don't even have to take a sick day because of COVID. You just take the day off. So they treat you really well, because they know we're really passionate about what we on our work. So they know a lot of us are working more than we say we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought you were saying something.
Yeah. I was like agreeing with you. Like we're actually getting a lot more perks.
Oh yeah, we're getting a ton of perks. Health perks. Ooh, beautiful. Sorry, I'm bragging now. If the job location is not in Canada, is it still worth considering at this time? Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
I applied in like Seattle and all those other places. Your internship can be anywhere, right?
Yeah. Well, depends. Like if you want the visa, if you want the postgrad work permit, no, you can. Wait, Fernando applied for it, and he's in Colombia. So I think you're fine. Yeah, I think you can work wherever. But if you're not a U.S. citizen, I think you need, and like you got a job in Seattle, then you need to get a work permit. You need to get a work visa, and that's something I've had to deal with, and crazy stuff. So
yeah, no, you guys aren't wrong, and that's the thing. Again, a lot of people come into the program from other countries, and that too. We have had people return and complete internships in other places. Other places we have had grads move into the U.S. and yes, you need to have legal working status, which is actually a little more complicated right now because there's putting up a little more I don't think it's as realistic to be thinking about the US right now with the H-1B and what the restrictions the US has in place around that. But you can look at companies that are multinational companies like SAP, like EA, like others that actually have offices that once things start freeing up, the movement between, I mean, you got a long career ahead of you. I mean, I've always been an advocate for, look at the opportunities that are around the world. I mean, my first real roles in life were in Denmark when I worked at the University of Copenhagen and worked with IO Interactive on the Hitman initial stuff, and then over to Germany. And, so it's like, but, right now we're in a very unique situation. I think where I'm going with this is that how in this, you both had probably mentioned the job fairs, the convention concept of the networking. So we're now in a new era of networking where it is online, right? So we're not doing the handshake and the fist bump or the hugs anymore, right? So, and I'm glad you brought up the, adding people to your art station or adding, so like there are still ways of expanding your network, getting some feedback, getting informational interviews from people. And again, like the alumni network where you had those conversations where it used to be, face-to-face or whatever, you can still set up some one-to-one time. I think I want you all still thinking that you're not alone. Like networking, it's still going to be a thing. It's just going to be done differently. Right. I think, there will be opportunities all over the world in time. I think for those of you that have opportunities that you can't, like already visas or working status in place, it might be worth looking at, but you also will be able to follow the path that a lot of MDM international students have done and staying in Vancouver and working under the student visas that you have. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure. And I think that's, what you're going to do with your MDM degree and your post, MDM life with your careers, they're all going to be unique, but the shared experience is that you're all a network. Everyone in this cohort, you obviously have a connection to the C13s. You guys are helping out the C14s, right? But I can honestly say that it goes all the way back to C1s. Like they're still there looking out to see what kind of help they can offer. And
I've asked mine for help. Anytime.
Baz, I think we connected with Joey at EA for some feedback, or we had Highway. I mean, there's a lot of various cohorts have provided different advice, when they can, right? So,
yeah.
So many connections.
So many connections.
Keep reaching out, and don't be afraid to ask, kind of like what you do with us, ask for coffee or go out and those are really helpful. Even if it doesn't land you anything, it's remember, if you're in the scope of different companies, that's your best case scenario, because even if you're done with this company, they're like, oh, you're free finally, okay, great. You want to get hired? So always stay in communication. We're always doing that too. We're in the same boat where we constantly need to keep connecting. So that's
I also want to bring up the referral program because I realize we're running out of time.
That's right.
So Difrak brought up good question, and I'll read it out. Does EA have a referral program, and is it advantageous if the current cohort reach out to you or the other CDM alumni at EA about the job post? No pressure. I'll let you know that I referred Boz and I got a nice little bonus for doing so. I think it was $500, so that was nice. Extra little income on my paycheck there, and it really depends on. I'll start by the bonus part, so it's super sexy for me and Boz. But once you get hired, you'll find it really nice too. So for junior levels to intermediate levels, $500, and then it can go to $1,000 for intermediate to senior, and then to if you hire an exec, oh my gosh, you'll get $20,000. But I don't think I'll ever get that.
I love how you know this.
I read up on it when I hired. So definitely reach out to us. So Boz and I had a conversation before.
This is also universal. So you guys are using EA. It's not to say the same payout structure, but the value of the referral is there. I mean, whether it comes in the form of a monetary compensation that they're going to give the referee, or if it's clout, the respective, it saves companies time, money, and hassle in trying to find candidates when they have some internal referrals. They usually, if a position's posted and there's going to be 100 applicants, if there's another 2 or 3 that came with referrals attached, those resumes or applications move up the pile. They're going to get looked at. right?
Yeah.
It still doesn't get you the job. And I think that's the other thing I wanted to go is that just because somebody says, hey, interview this guy, does not mean he's going to get the job, right?
Exactly.
You still have to earn that job. And that's I think there's that old idea of the who you know network is what's going to get you the job. No, no one's going to say, yeah, you have to hire this person, but giving them a look, knowing that somebody did refer them or that they vouched for them, it does mean something, but it's still on you to get that job. So, but yeah, that you get rewarded for it. That's awesome. But I bring that up so that it's not necessarily, a lot of people either feel embarrassed or they don't want to take time away from somebody by asking that favor. Well, there's a benefit to them, right? In one form or another. So don't feel too shy about asking for that, referral down the road. You're not there yet. I think right now, informational interviewing, learning about the rules, getting a critique of your portfolio, getting some tips about how to position, that's great. But, it shouldn't always be about, do you have a job for me? Can you refer me for this job? Learn from the people that you're going to network with before you start asking them about jobs. Right.
Definitely don't stress if you don't have a job lined up right now, because you're just starting out. I'll bring it up again. I got hired in November, so that's 3 months into the internship. Boss got hired after the 4 months.
Yeah, I got hired in Feb. It's just don't be but I applied to a bunch of other places, and I always got the same answer from a lot of different places, is that we'd love to have you. It's just it's not the right time. Meaning that they found a different candidate and they're more willing to focus on that person, or that they're basically just not hiring at this point. And to be honest, it really just depends on the budget, depends on the company, so many different factors that you don't know, which is actually very frustrating, because you're like, I want a job and I want to know all the answers, but sometimes that part is the luck part, whether or not you found the right place at the right time. And luckily, for me and Wayland, it was a bit stressful in the beginning, but we got jobs, so it's an eventual thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Every MDM student has put the effort into whatever that unique path they take after completing the program. You'll get there, but it takes effort, and there is some rejection along the way. Some people do get super lucky. It's the first place they applied to, or somebody saw them. That happens. It's the exception, not the rule. And in some ways, yeah, what you learn from that experience, the prep, the realizing how you can polish, perfect how you're presenting yourselves, there's a lot of value in that, because like Jeanette was saying too, it's like you're not necessarily staying at one place forever. You may hop around a little bit. So the effort that you're putting into your online presence, the building your network, to adding people to your ArtStation or on LinkedIn, this is the great time to do it, because you're still students, early part of your careers in that sense, and you have the freedom to do it. It's different when you're working someplace and all of a sudden you've added 20 different recruiters. If I'm your employer and I'm saying, oh, wait a minute, Baz has just added 30 different recruiters. I might have to have a talk with this guy, just make sure things are okay. But anyway, it's like your stories are super relevant. I guess the other thing that's sort of important right now is that you know about the MDM program being unique and having to work with different disciplines and work on somebody else's problem and work even in remote ways. How do you suggest the current students, the C14s, tell their COVID story, how they provide value on teams by already being remote collaborators or working with other disciplines? What's your recommendations there? How would you say that? Yeah.
I'd probably post them. I noticed a lot of recruiters are now very heavily connected in LinkedIn, especially we're seeing a lot of stories of I think more so now I'm seeing more projects being posted on LinkedIn versus before, because before you had these committees or these fairs or these events that would happen, but since now online presence, this is a great advantage, because now everyone's looking at online stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity to get in it and really show what you can do. And especially with your projects, I think if you post them on LinkedIn, have a blog, an ArtStation, Twitter, anything, the more places, the better.
I also want to mention, my website was not looked at by my current employers. It was LinkedIn and GitHub. So website is for the extra good stuff. Here's my extra details. But if you're posting on a social network and having that online presence, I think that's really valuable, especially during this time.
Well, it's another arrow in your quiver here. Like, it's basically, you don't know. Like, your tools for getting discovered vary, right? Some people, you know, because it's, if you start having an online presence, that's www.dentist.com. Like, people go there, that's great. But more likely, they'll go to LinkedIn, or they'll look, you know, it's just another tool, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um,
And Dave had a great point here too, because this is super true.
Yeah.
Not all the postings that you're going to be looking into are going to be publicly posted. Companies have a lot of internal things that they look at, you know, internally before they actually go through that search process. So the benefit of doing some of those informational interviews, making connections within those companies, you may be discovered on something that never even gets posted.
Yeah.
Right. So it's,
I mean, that's how I got put on my new project.
right.
Internal.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and that's, there's a lot to that. So, all right. Well, we're closing in on one. I know you guys are having your work day, which, you know, this is part of it. Thank you so much on behalf of everybody, of course. But yeah, super proud of you guys. It's appreciated. Tons of love. I know Kira was really planning on being here, but life does get in the way sometimes. And again, I'm sure she'll be open to, you know, her own way of connecting in the future. But yeah, to Baz and Wayland, thank you so much. Yeah, you guys are, yeah, well, you're awesome. So thank you for that.
Thanks everyone. And feel free to message us. No, and
Yeah.
we are super busy, but